When AJ spills food on the floor and Tony starts berating him, AJ is stiff and looks uncomfortable, unlike in later seasons where he constantly brushes off criticism from his parents and is absolutely insufferable. So it might be best for Tony to have a few words and move on. But he then looks at Carmela and says, "I'm supposed to get a vasectomy when this is my male heir? Look at him." I mean, this one needs no explanation, surely. It is one of the cruelest things uttered in the entire show. There is probably no greater example in The Sopranos of a way to put down a character, to demoralize him, to strip him of both his manhood and his status as the only son. How is that supposed to make you feel if you're AJ? That you're not good enough? That you're so weak and such a disappointment that your father is holding out on hope that he'll have another son who is better than you? And sure, AJ can be a fool, but at this point he's around 15 and has a sociopathic father. Many of AJ's failings are actually Tony's. As I argued in another video, with parents like AJ's, what chance did the boy actually have? And the lack of reaction from AJ, in spite of his mother's insistence that Tony apologizes, is telling. Sure, maybe he doesn't even know what a vasectomy is, but if he does, his non-reaction implies Tony's insult is pretty much what he's been led to believe his entire life, that he's utterly useless and without value. It's so mean-spirited and merciless to say something like that to your son. I mean, even if it was true, some things are just best left unsaid. On to my next pick, and it's when Tony is having dinner with Janice, Bobby, and their family. Throughout this episode, Tony can see that Janice, who is one of the most toxic people in the show, is doing therapy and it's clearly having an effect. She's calmer, happier, she's doing well with her new family. Both Tony and Janice have issues, especially since they had Livia for a mother, but here Janice is actually trying to change and she's having success. And Tony's reaction? Well, he just can't take it. Can't take it that Janice is happy, and he tries to bring her down to his level by bringing up her estranged son, saying, "I wonder where Harpo is eating his Sunday dinner." And when Janice is able, albeit struggling, to keep her cool, he digs his heels further, saying, "I wonder what's French Canadian for I grew up without a mother," and "Sacre bleu, where's me mama?" citing him as the boy's uncle as his reason for doing so. But his shit-eating grin as he walks out of the home says everything. He can't stand to see Janice happy and in control of herself. It's one of Tony's most petty moments, one where it's most obvious where he is just a miserable person who spreads his misery and can't let anyone be happy, much like his mother. Janice had even apologized to Tony earlier for her behavior, talked up how her therapy helped her become happy, and instead of being happy for his sister, he rips away all the progress she's made. He's only happy when he finally makes her unhappy. I will say one thing though in Tony's favor here. In a way, Tony is calling Janice out on her phoniness and bullshit that she is cured and a changed person, showing how easy it is for her to slip into her old ways with just a few words. And it's still narcissistic and selfish for Janice to only consider herself and be happy that her happiness is improving, when she's left an avalanche of destruction in her journey. As Tony points out, she may be happy and jolly with her new family, but there is still a son out there who Janice abandoned, and she hasn't righted that wrong, instead doing the easy thing and ignoring it. But in any case, Tony's comments aren't coming from a place of sincerity and caring about his nephew, regardless if the point he made was valid. It was cruel, unnecessary, and completely calculated. Janice should have brought up his small hands and he would have gone crying all the way back to Melfi. For my next pick, I'm going for Tony's line to Melfi when he says, "We're soldiers. Soldiers don't go to hell." So what's so evil about that? Well, it's the fact that he justifies his behavior and everything he and the mob do with this line. The fact that it's dripping with narcissism and shows he does not take any accountability. And he follows it up by berating Melfi for taking a stand and says she told him all this time she's been saying nothing is his fault because of poor parenting. And now he's angry, insecure and lashing out because she calls him out, saying what does poor Italian immigrants have to do with him? He can't take it and would rather live in this bubble where what he is doing is for the betterment of his people. He goes on about codes and orders, talking about preserving things that mean something to the Italians. He uses words like honor, loyalty, and family. And it's sickening. It's scary that someone can delude themselves into thinking this. Someone should make a supercut of Tony saying, "We're soldiers," and follow it up with Paulie killing an old lady, Tony killing his nephew, the bust out with Davey, getting the cop demoted, crying about a horse, hijacking trucks carrying TVs, and all of the other Sopranos shenanigans. But there are people like this, people who commit heinous actions and feel fully justified, and it is pure evil. So for my next pick, I'm going for a line said in a fight between Tony and Carmela. It's really more the overall mood and attitude of Tony, but it's best summarized when he screams at Carm. "Fact is, you're a shitty businesswoman who built a piece of shit house that's gonna cave in and kill that unborn baby any day, and now you can't sleep." He follows this up with, bearing in mind Carmela has been forward thinking and wanting to plan in case Tony is arrested or killed. He says, "When I'm gone, you can live in a fucking dumpster for all I care." And you have to bear in mind, one of the reasons he's so pissed is just because he couldn't bet more heavily on a football game he won, and he's just lashing out, being cruel for the sake of it. And his demeanor isn't really scary, like it has been in previous shouting matches. It's intimidating, sure, but it comes off as deranged, desperate, and a far cry from how in control a lot of Tony Soprano verbal beatdowns are. And the line about living in a dumpster, damn. The whole point of making money as head of the household is to take care of your wife and kids. And here Tony is just openly saying he does not care what happens to Carmela after he's gone. That's deplorable.